All right, good evening and welcome to this very interesting conversation. We have about 20 days to go before the Karnataka election. So Karnataka is going to vote. As we have been told over and over again, it is do or die for everybody involved. For the BJP, remember I told you Karnataka is the only presence the BJP has in the South, and the South is very important to the BJP. We have all the big guns currently campaigning in Karnataka. The Congress desperately needs to win an election in order to sort of show, even going into a general election next year, that it's still got it. So the Congress, for it, it's a do or die. And for the JDS, if the JDS is not able to sort of continue to hold the few seats that it needs in order to at least be kingmaker, it's going to get completely wiped out. So this is where we stand right now. Lots of interesting things are happening. A lot of the old faces in Karnataka BJP have quit the party and moved to the Congress. Some crucial faces who've been around for a really long time, Jagdish Shettar, for example, Ishwarappa, have been exiting the BJP. But the BJP has played this strategy in the past. When they approach an anti-incumbency state that's not happy with the current government, they tend to remove all the existing faces and bring in new faces, thereby benefiting from their own anti-incumbency. Is that the tactic they're playing right now? And is it likely to work? That's the question we're asking. And to help me answer that question, I have with me the one and only Maya Sharma. Now, those of us who grew up in Bangalore know Maya Sharma, and I'm super excited to have her finally as a guest on my show because now she's able to do so. She's consulting editor at NDTV. She's tracked Karnataka for decades. Nobody knows this better than her. So it's really cool to have her as part of this conversation. Ms. Sharma, thank you so much for joining us. First question. Karnataka has always been an anti-incumbency state. It's never voted the same party twice in a row. But this time, that's kind of tricky because Operation Lotus meant we don't really remember who we voted for last time because there was a government, it flipped, there was another government, it flipped. So what are you reading on the ground right now?
Faye, your audio is coming and going. I'm hoping it's not reflective of the political climate here. But you were speaking about anti-incumbency, and I hope you can hear me. Well, yes, that is definitely something the BJP is facing at this point of time. Like any government in Karnataka, I think Karnataka likes change. Bangalore is, after all, the dynamic hot city of the country, and it likes change. Karnataka also tends to change its government. And the BJP, for sure, is worried about what this means. And we must remember, of course, that the BJP has never really got a majority on its own in the state. It's never got that magic number in an election. It's always had to cobble something together by either tying up with somebody else or by stealing MLAs from somebody else, but it's never won an election on its own. So added to that anti-incumbency factor, the BJP can't be taking anything for granted right now.
You know, and this is an interesting. You wrote an article about this on the NDTV blog on Nepo kids in this election and how every single party has brought in their kids. Okay, so Maya can't hear me. Can you hear me now? I'm not sure how to solve that problem.
Faye, I'm having a problem hearing you.
While
I just tried it a little more.
Okay. While she tries a different earpiece or a different headphone.
Good old-fashioned. Yes.
Right now on
yes.
The various Nepo kids of Karnataka election.
It's frozen now. Frozen. It's frozen.
There we go. So, to go to the airport.
Sorry for that. Apparently, our internet is going in and out. But just to brief you, right? So Maya Sharma had written this very interesting article on the NDTV blog about the Nepo kids of Karnataka elections across all parties. Yediyurappa, who's not contesting this time, has his son in that seat. The JDS is a family-run party. You had Deve Gowda, Kumaraswamy, now his son Nikhil, his Kumaraswamy's wife contested as well. And the Congress, which has always been accused of being family run, continues to place its own kids in and out of that party as well. The interesting argument is for the BJP, at least, they've always had this family run politics is bad as part of its campaign. Can they use that this time at all?
Well, really, that is what the Congress is doing as well. It's pointing fingers right back at the BJP, because the BJP, as we know, has always talked about the family, the royal family of the Congress, pointing fingers at Sonia Gandhi, at Rahul, at Priyanka. But really, the best known face of the BJP in Karnataka, B.S. Yediyurappa, he has stepped aside from electoral politics, but he made it a condition that his son Vijendra be given his Shikaripura seat. Vijendra is really not yet, at least, a patch on his father in terms of charisma, in terms of bringing in the crowds. But he has been given that all-important seat. The Shikaripura MLA's ticket has been given to him. So really, what leg does the BJP have to stand on when it talks about family politics? And it's not just Yediyurappa, other leaders as well. Their wives, their daughters-in-law, their relatives have been given the seats. It is, of course, happening in the Congress and the JDS as well. But BJP certainly also wanting to keep it all in the family. There's no exception there.
There's also the question of corruption, and I think that this is the big question. As a citizen or as someone who's grown up in Bangalore as well, this is, I know, something that bothers people. It's on, it's conversation at dinner tables. Everybody's tired. There's been a spate of corruption across parties. This is not limited to one party. This particular BJP government run by Chief Minister Bommai, has faced the brunt of corruption allegations. The 40% government, things like that. Can the BJP, with the shiny campaign or the high-octane campaign run by the Prime Minister, override that 40% government accusation or override that overwhelming sense of corruption that the citizens are left with?
The sad part about corruption allegations is that we have become used to it. We are not shocked the way perhaps we used to be. We're not shocked perhaps the way we should be. Yes, we've talked about the 40% government, with the opposition saying the 40% government will get only 40 seats in the 224-member assembly. We've had those that kind of PCM campaign run by the Congress as well. Corruption, I believe, should be a huge issue. As you said, it has gone across all parties. The BJP has also had a lot of corruption allegations against it, a sitting MLA found with crores in his house. But honestly, unfortunately, I think that corruption is not as big an issue with the voters as you think it should be, as you think it might be. I feel that they look at other things as well. I think, very sadly, corruption is almost taken as a given in politics, which is a very, very sad thing. But corruption, yes, the allegations will have an impact, but I'm not sure if the impact will be as big as we in the media might think it would be.
So what is the big content in that? Because you said in one of your comments, you said that the BJP might be ignoring the caste factor or ignoring the Lingayat vote, and that might be dangerous. Is caste really the big play here for Karnataka this time, as always, unfortunately?
Caste in Karnataka, yes, always a big issue. And at this time, again, that's another sensitive issue for the present government, for the ruling party, the BJP. They are a little worried because, as you know, they've lost a couple of big Lingayat leaders in the recent past, Jagdish Shettar, Lakshman Savadi. They still have the biggest, B.S. Yediyurappa, and they're waving him around as much as they can. But they have lost a couple of Lingayat leaders, and the Congress is again using this to try and see the respect being given. And they're going back in time to well before, I think you must have been a little girl then, Faye, if you were around at all. They're going way back to the 1990s when Virendra Patil was dismissed by Rajiv Gandhi almost casually in a kind of offhand comment. They're going back to that to say the Congress has disrespected Lingayats. We don't disrespect Lingayats, but the Congress is not letting that go. And they are in fact saying that there is a sense of disrespect with the way Jagdish Shetty was treated, with the way other senior leaders were treated. And they're also saying that Yediyurappa himself, the way he was asked to go, does mean that the BJP is not giving as much attention to the Lingayats as perhaps they should be given, considering it is really their big base.
But the BJP claims to have found a solution in the caste reservation sort of shuffling that they've done. Yeah. On one hand, there is the OBC Muslim reservation that they have withdrawn from that community. Obviously, BJP feeling that they can do without the Muslim vote. This is what their pattern has been over the last 3 or 4 years with the hijab controversy. There was the halal meat controversy. There was the we will not allow Muslims to have stalls in front of temples. All of this happened in Karnataka. And now they've withdrawn this reservation from OBC Muslims and moved it, we understand, to the Lingayats. Is that enough, you think, to gloss over or smoothen those rough edges that they have?
Well, of course, the BJP has also famously not really given any Muslim candidates tickets as well. Yes, they did attempt to remove that 4% reservation from the Muslims in OBC, saying that they could apply for reservation underneath the economically weaker sector. They wanted to give 2%, yes, to the Lingayats, but 2% also to the Vokkaligas, the other very, very major, very powerful caste group in the state. So they wanted to give that 2% to the Lingayats, another 2% to the Vokkaligas. But the courts have stepped in and said, really, you can't do this. It doesn't seem to have been studied. So the Karnataka government has stubbed its toe on this issue. The court saying, you can't just do that. You can't just take away the reservation from the Muslims. On what basis are you doing this? So Karnataka government trying to do that, but not quite succeeding. But it was a pretty obvious attempt to try and get those two very powerful caste groups happy with them. And as you said, it didn't matter what the Muslims felt for the BJP.
And I'm going to have to spend a minute on that because, and this is something that always distresses me about elections when it becomes about religion, and we've seen that build sort of, that divide sort of get heightened as we approach the election. It happened the last time Karnataka went to elections as well. The response from the Muslim citizens or the Muslim voter has been very measured. Whether it was the hijab controversy, it went to court, but on the ground it was quiet. The halal meat, we've had violence in the state about the transport of beef. And aside from elections, how bad is that divide right now on the ground? Because again, as someone who grew up in the state, I don't remember it being this bad when I was a girl.
Karnataka was always very famously a peaceful state, a state where communal harmony was the norm. Any communal disharmony was an aberration. It was always like that. I mean, we have our state anthem as well, which talks about the different religions all living together. The rise of the whole Hindutva agenda, especially in coastal Karnataka, has seen more and more cases of young Muslim men being attacked because they've been talking to a Hindu girl. We've seen that kind of division happening, particularly in the coastal region. There has definitely been an increase in that, for sure. But I have also heard political commentators and political observers say that while attempts have been made, the division has not actually happened. It has not succeeded in many ways. I have heard people say that while, yes, the attempts have been made in Karnataka, the results have been smaller, perhaps, than were hoped for by the ones who wanted the division. The feeling is, and that does sound good, and I hope it is true, that the feeling is that ultimately Karnataka is not really going to go big for any communal divide, for any communal issue, that there are other things that they're worried about, and they're not going to take the bait when it comes to dividing communities. Let's hope so.
Let's hope so indeed. In fact, we have a question from Lorraine Hoover, very good question. She says, there's a concern of not getting the funds from the center that we deserve, but we will struggle if the state government is from a different party as the central government. Now this, I must point out, is, India is federal. We are a union of states. Each state has a certain right to the funds that it deserves. And the fact that people actually feel this way is very depressing, because this goes against the way our constitution was designed. But I want to understand from you, again, you said that Karnataka has never been a double-engine state. The state votes differently in the union elections and differently in state elections. What's your response to Lorraine Hoover? Do you think that funds will be an issue going forward?
You know, we have leaders. We have the senior BJP leaders saying, vote for the BJP. Otherwise, you may not, in order to get Modi's blessings. I mean, that, of course, was picked upon by the opposition. It was debated a lot. But to say something like that is pretty much an indication that if you don't vote in the BJP again, you won't get the government's blessings. And that has been a cause of friction. Right now, yes, of course, there's a BJP government in the state as well as in the center. But in the past, it has been seen, it has been perceived, shall I say, it has been perceived that perhaps opposition states do not get the same blessings as the same party ruled states at the center. I'm not talking only about the BJP, I'm talking about the Congress as well. That if the state government is the same as the central government, there's a little bit of partiality. That has been the perception, and perception is often reality. But when leaders say, vote BJP, get the blessings of the Prime Minister, then that is a that is a comment which is really a cause for concern. Because surely states should get what they need, not based on what they voted for.
And let's also consider the fact that Karnataka rakes in a lot of revenue for the central government as well. It's a big contributor. Personally, I feel that Karnataka has done remarkably well over the last 2 decades, in spite of the various governments that have been in charge of it, not because of them, because it's a state and the city of Bangalore has been driven and you have people who work very hard. How much of that is at play at this point? Because what I've heard from the ground is that this could be, in terms of black money floating, the most expensive election Karnataka has ever seen. Is that true?
Money everywhere, money being seized everywhere. And one of the signs of the election is you see these little police outposts at every corner where they check cars, where they check for money, for cash, for liquor, for anything to induce the voter. I mean, anecdotally, many voters in many rural areas are offered sums of money from the different parties. That is almost something, a kind of additional assured income at election time. Money is the way voters are being bought would be a matter of concern, except that the people I've spoken to have said that they do accept money from all the parties, but then go and vote for whoever they want to. So it's like an additional source of income at this time, which is very sad indeed. But the money factor is a big issue. And yes, each election, the legitimate expenditure allowed per candidate is really a laughable fraction, really, of what candidates do spend. So the money factor is an issue, yes. And the very fact that only very rich candidates tend to stand.
Let me ask you this question. The last time there was an election in Karnataka, my understanding from the ground was that it took a minimum of 5 crore rupees per candidate to campaign. And the other two parties, most of the parties were expecting the candidates to sort of raise that money on their own, which is why a lot of them, there's a barrier there, and a lot of candidates cannot contest because they can't possibly rake up those kind of funds. Is it still 5 crores? Is it more than 5 crore this time?
Well, I don't have an exact figure, but it sounds reasonable. It sounds quite realistic. And in fact, there have questions asked of the Congress leadership as well, because Karnataka is, of course, one state where the Congress does have a presence. Whether it can form the next government on its own is a big question, but it does have a presence. So there's a question actually being asked of the Congress leadership as to whether they felt that would Karnataka then become a sort of cash producing state? Would a pressure be on Karnataka to produce cash for the Congress party? And with Bengaluru, as you're saying, being such a rich, I mean, even in terms of the amount of taxes which Bengaluru pays, would that be then a factor for any government which is formed? Will Karnataka then be required to fund the ruling party? That is a matter of concern.
That's an important question.
Yes. And also like the South, like in your previous question as well, the very fact that the growth of population in the South, including Karnataka, is less than the growth of population in many of the northern states. And the feeling that the share, that even though it's contributing a lot, it may not be getting a share for the very reason that the population is not rising at the same rate, could be something that people think is not quite fair.
It's not fair. Absolutely. We've got some interesting questions coming in. Suhas Ahuja says there is a feeling that whatever happens in the election, the BJP will power one way or the other because of the electoral arithmetic. And this is a fair question because will the horse trading and the switching of sides mean that who I vote for doesn't matter because who has the money is going to win at the end? Is that the feeling on the ground?
That is, when you talk to people, that is very much what they feel. I was talking to somebody just today who said the BJP may not get a majority, but that doesn't mean they may not form the government. Because while the BJP has never got a majority on its own in an election, they have been in power. They have formed, if I could use the term, legitimate coalitions with the JDS, the Janata Dal Secular. But what happened in 2019 was really an example of how the BJP will form the government if it really wants to. It didn't have the numbers, but so many, 17, 18 MLAs left that BJP JDS coalition, the Congress Janata Dal Secular coalition. They left it, and they went across to the BJP, and the BJP is now has a comfortable majority in the assembly. So there is that feeling on the ground. It may be cynical, it may be sad, but that if the BJP wants to form the government, it may very well do so. Whatever happens on the 10th.
This sort of links back to what we said earlier, right? From if there's so much black money involved and each candidate is having to raise upwards of 5 crore rupees or more simply to fight that election, that candidate is effectively going to spend the term trying to recover that investment or make more than 5 crore rupees illegally. Now, that could come from switching sides, it could come from bribes, it could come from handing out contracts to contractors who don't deserve it. All of these things are finally a dirty circle of money where basically they've invested, now they want to recover. There's a question from Akash Singh who says, why the BJP is not taking Karnataka election seriously? Boss, it's not possible to take the election more seriously than the BJP is taking, isn't it? That is a really heavy duty campaign that they're running right now.
Oh, the Prime Minister is going to be here quite a lot in the coming days. He's already made several visits to the state, inaugurating various big infrastructure projects, and he's going to be coming back a lot. The BJP really takes every election very, very seriously indeed. Amit Shah, we've had Amit Shah here on the ground as well. The Prime Minister's coming. We've had senior BJP leaders. They are taking it very seriously indeed, because while this is a state where the Congress, like I said, does have some sort of presence, they would like it to be a state where the Congress is defeated. They want Karnataka. They want Karnataka, and they are taking it very seriously indeed.
I must point this out to Akash Singh. The BJP fights elections in a systematic, planned way, which the other parties simply have not learned how to do. So they will start years before the election in every state. They've got people working in every single block. They're breaking it down. They're making their plans. They're writing out their structures, and they don't stop. Even if it looks like a complete failed prospect, they will still not stop. The BJP continues to fight until the last day, and then some, and then after that, and then after that as well. Even after the elections results have been declared, it continues to keep its heels on the ground. So definitely not Karnataka, because like I said, it's a really important state. It's the only state the BJP has in the south right now, which is really important as well. So many more questions. We have a question here from Deshbhakt and the other one from Sanjay, who says, please ask Maya Sharma to stick her neck out and predict the elections.
Wow. Okay. I'm talking about this phase today. As of now, I think, don't quote me on this if I get it wrong. If I get it right, please do quote me. I think we're looking at another hung assembly. I think that we're looking at maybe the Congress with a slighter, larger number of seats than the BJP. I don't think either of these big parties will have enough to form the government on their own. I think the JDS will again come back into the picture, is what I'm saying now. But we still have a little over 2 weeks to the election, a little over 2 weeks to the voting. And in case something dramatic happens, something major happens, which could swing it either way, then all bets are off. But this is what I'm sticking my neck out and saying now. Remember to quote me if I'm right.
Yes, I will. So actually, I wanted to ask you about the Congress party. We haven't talked about it yet. Infighting, hot mess as usual within the Congress party. They've got two big leaders now going up against each other. We've got Siddaramaiah, who's the former chief minister, big popular face. We get DK or DK Shivkumar, who is a big leader within the party, not so popular face, known for corruption. Let's be honest, I don't mince words. Two big leaders. If the Congress does manage a government, will the fact that it always has infighting rip it apart? Look at what's happening in Rajasthan. They still not managed to settle those differences.
That's really very embarrassing for any party to have people protesting, to have that kind of division, to have protests outside the party office after tickets are allotted. And of course, the Siddaramaiah DK Shivkumar question is always there. There are divisions, as you mentioned, in every party. All parties have their infighting, whether it's within the family, like Revana wanting a ticket for his wife and Kumaraswamy saying, nah, not this time. In the BJP as well, we've seen what has happened. We've heard about this the kind of rift between PL Santosh and Yediyurappa. And in the Congress as well, definitely DK Shivkumar, Siddaramaiah, very honestly, very openly, both of them do want to become chief minister. They would like that very much. I think what's the problem here for all parties is that reluctance to give a chief ministerial face to say who will be chief ministers. I mean, it's not even very clearly announced that Bommai, who is the current chief minister, will continue if the BJP does come back to power. It's the constant thing of it will be the MLAs who decide. I think it causes that bit of a division. The Congress doesn't want to stick its neck out and say it's Siddaramaiah or it's DK Shivkumar, at the risk of alienating that leader and that leader's followers. But I think that kind of uncertainty does give a lot of scope for negativity or negative assumptions. The two, I mean, and probably they'll try to think we have these two, but we have these two very big leaders, so we're spoiled for choice. Maybe that's the way they're trying to look at it.
And so somehow it's a question that the Congress fails to answer in all of its states. We've seen it play out in more than one state. I do want to ask you about the JDS. We've heard that HD Deve Gowda is campaigning. He's 89 years old, a big, popular Vokaliga face. No amount of shuffling on the caste card by the BJP can take away from the fact that he is the most popular face with Vokaligas. Can he rake in the numbers?
Of course, in the last election, the Lok Sabha election, when he gave his very safe seat of Hassan to his grandson Prajwal, that family love once again, he did go to Kolar, he did lose. He has a very, very strong following in his areas, in his strong areas. He is very respected. I feel that perhaps the generation has moved on. I feel that he is always a very, very senior face and a very respected face across parties as well. Everybody has that respect for him. But even campaigning this time, he has, for health reasons, not campaigned quite so much. And he won't be campaigning quite so much again because of his age and health factors. Although if you see him on International Yoga Day, the poses that are posted out by his team on social media, they're quite impressive. So he does strive for fitness. And he does, when I have been on the campaign trail with him, that response to him is really, really huge and very warm.
For any of our audience members who are interested, HD Deve Gowda is nearly 90 years old, does yoga every day, consumes ragi. So that's the secret to his health, and the fact that he's also mentally extremely astute and sharp and stays on top of everything. Thomas Franco says, grassroots information says Congress has clear edge in spite of the infighting. Okay. But clear edge in Karnataka means what? It's still a percentage of the majority that you need. So does anyone have the ability to win that majority is the question. Will JDS be kingmaker? So here's the question, Ms. Sharma. Will JDS be kingmaker? And is the JDS likely to make BJP?
Well, the JDS in the past has, of course, partnered with both the BJP and the Congress, and both parties have not very happy memories of their coalition with the JDS. With the Congress in the Dharam Singh government, he decided Kumaraswamy withdrew support. He then linked up with the BJP. There was supposed to be a chief ministerial sharing where Kumaraswamy would be chief minister first and hand over to B.S. Yediyurappa. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. And B.S. Yediyurappa had to resign, even though he was the first chief minister of the BJP in South India. He had to resign within a week because of the loss of support from Kumaraswamy. So while the Congress and the BJP may well need to turn towards the JDS, it will be with the knowledge that they have burnt their fingers in the past.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I got disconnected for a second. The internet's a little choppy on my end as well. Sorry for that. John Smith is asking, will the Lingayat vote decide government formation in Karnataka? What are the numbers on the caste breakup?
Well, the Lingayat vote is, of course, a huge percentage of the votes. I mean, the numbers vary because we haven't had that caste census results actually out yet, but it's estimated to be between 14 and 17% of the population, the Lingayat population. So it is, of course, a hugely major factor. And with the perception, definitely, that the Lingayat vote bank is largely the BJP vote bank, they have been instrumental in bringing the BJP to power. So yes, of course, they are very, very hugely important. And the Congress as well, while it is very, very strong in the south, in the Vokkaliga territory, among OBCs, among Muslims as well, it does not want to lose the Lingayat vote or give that up in any way, just as it's important for the Congress to have more Lingayat votes in order to form the government. Similarly, it's important for the BJP to look at the Vokkaliga votes, not the traditional vote basis of either party, but it's hugely important. But basically, the answer to that question is yes, the Lingayat vote base is very important for all the parties. It is a huge factor.
One of the statements that H.D. Deve Gowda had just made is that he was going to bring back the Muslim vote to the JDS. So the JDS or the Congress, obviously the BJP is not, but who's vying for that Muslim vote? And what is the size of the Muslim population?
Well, 10, both of them 11%? Are. I think we're looking at 10%. I think the figures I think were about 10 to 11%. It is a very substantial portion of the population. The Congress has perhaps been more visible in the way it has tried to take up certain issues which may seem a little surreal now. Like, I mean, for example, Tipu Sultan, who has been dead for over 200 years, is now mentioned, is now alive again in Karnataka politics. And the Congress government, of course, celebrating his birthday, treating him as a freedom fighter, as somebody who fought for the country. And the BJP highlighting certain other aspects of his history, which were violent, which were not what could possibly be acceptable today. So that kind of divide, the Congress is also seems to be raising it more, but also maybe because the Congress is also more visible in the state than the JDS at this point, even given the number of seats, given the size of the party following. But the Congress certainly is definitely trying to reach out for the Muslim vote, which is hugely important, huge numbers as well.
Yeah. So very interesting questions are coming in. Shigar Raj says, what are the major issues that will decide this election? Will it be economy, jobs? Caste, we've already answered that question. Maya Sharma said caste is likely to be the most important issue or the most important, reason why people will vote in this election, as they have done in the past in Karnataka as well. But Shubham says, why is the opposition reinvigorating the Kannadiga versus outsider debate and to create issues where there are no issues, like Amul, for example? Now, we've seen this culturally sort of explode on the ground. There are videos coming up, people being treated badly because they can't speak Kannada, people getting angry because someone's speaking Hindi to them. And on top of that now is the Amul versus Nandini debate. How bad is it really, first of all, culturally on the ground, the Kannada speakers versus the non-Kannada speakers?
There is, I think, a little bit more friction than there used to be in the earlier years. The earlier feel was that Bengaluru is such a welcoming state that attempts would be made to speak the language of the visitor rather than force him or insult him or her because they did not know Kannada. But why I feel it's becoming such a big issue on the ground now is that just as the BJP is going on talking about national issues, bringing in Prime Minister Modi as their star campaigner and talking about double engine and looking at the nation, the Congress is very, very clearly going for local issues. It's very much trying to say this is a state election, it's an assembly election, we're going to push the local issues. So whether the local issues are Amul and Nandini, whether the local issues are other factors on the ground, jobs for Kannadigas, that they're really going along those lines. Infrastructure, I mean, when it comes to infrastructure, Bengaluru, you can always find something to say about it. So they're really tackling the local issues because I feel that's what they're trying to say. This is a local election. And we are right here. And that's
is there any steam in that campaign, though?
I think there is, because city dwellers are notoriously, they don't have a good turnout. Bengaluru has one of the lowest turnouts in the state when it comes to voting. But one place where you will get Bengaluru to at least react is when you talk about the traffic, when you talk about the infrastructure, when you talk about the trees being cut, when you talk about our famous burning lakes, our frothy, foamy lakes. And of course, we've had government after government which has failed to fix it. But it's an easy way for the challenger to take on the present government by saying, see, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, you haven't done this. So it is a factor which I think resonates with the voter because it's what they see around them. If they're struggling to travel from one part of the city to another, they will be thinking of that on a daily basis.
We've seen the Aam Aadmi Party sort of make some sort of opening now in Karnataka. Some party, candidates have shifted sides to the Aam Aadmi Party. Neeraj says, will the Aam Aadmi Party be able to attract any percentage of the vote? And if they do so, will they be cutting it out of the Congress, thereby helping the BJP?
The Aam Aadmi Party has made, in the last election as well, it did make some inroads, especially in the urban centers, whether it was Bengaluru, whether it was Mysuru. It did have some appeal for the urban voter who was looking for something new, because it was all newer some years ago, who wanted to turn away from the traditional three big parties of Karnataka, the BJP, the Congress, and the JDS. It did have some appeal. I am not really very sure whether that appeal has grown since the last election, or whether it has in fact diminished somewhat. I don't think it's as much as it was even in the last election. They couldn't really make much of an impact in the election itself. I think by having candidates at least was a start for Karnataka, but I don't think it has grown in any way since the last election. And we have one of the well-known candidates, Bhaskar Rao, who was in AAP, and he himself has switched now to the BJP and has got a ticket from one of the city constituencies. So I think he could also be symbolic of what happened. He did join AAP, but he is now with the BJP.
Maya Sharma, thank you so much for joining me today and answering all of these questions very patiently.
Oh, it was fun.
It is always
it was fun.
Such a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope we can speak many times. During the course of these elections as well. It promises to be rivetingly exciting. And our audience thanks you for your time. Maya Sharma, then, the brilliant journalist who, in my opinion, understands Karnataka like nobody else, joining us to tell us about that Karnataka election. So write out your questions and we'll try and convince her to come back and do another session with us. For now, thank you for watching. Good night.